came today, all of you in attendance, and I want to thank you for your interest in the work of the State Board. I would at this time like to recognize any visitors and media who have signed in. I have, at least at this point, visitors who have signed in: Ryan Bailey from SCASA. Good to see you, Ryan. We have three that have, well, media. I don't think we have any media here today at this point. And then we have three that would like to speak at a later point, and I'd like just to introduce them now. Jennifer Rainville from Appleseed Legal Justice Center, Catherine Fraley.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. That was pretty good, because I knew there was an I somewhere. From SCASA, and Steve Newsom. Thank you very, very, very much. As we look forward, going down to item 3, is there any objection to approving the minutes as presented? Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Looking at the agenda for now, October the 8th, approval of the agenda. Is there any objection to approving the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. For those of you who have wished to speak, that's good. We appreciate your interest in public education. Each of you will be allotted 5 minutes for your comments. Since we're hearing your comments for the first time, it will be the policy of the board to accept comments as information. If we have questions or need additional information, we will certainly, absolutely contact you at a later date. Thank you for your understanding. So at this time, if Jennifer Rainville would please come forward, and we have 5 minutes, and my time man, getting it ready. That's our fault.
I won't need the whole 5 minutes, hopefully.
All right, thank you. You may begin.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Rainville. I'm the education policy attorney with Appleseed Legal Justice Center. I have spent my entire legal career representing the interests of low-income South Carolina families. I'm a proud graduate of a South Carolina public school. My child is the proud graduate of a South Carolina public school. I support public schools and the amazing things that they can accomplish for children. Public schools and public school teachers changed my life. I grew up in a low-income single-parent home. I was on free school lunches. So I uniquely understand that the only way that we're going to lift students up and break the cycle of poverty is in our state is by improving educational outcomes of our students. It's why I do what I do. Education changed my future, broke generational cycles of poverty for my family, and it can do that for others. Children need a quality education that prepares them for college, the job market, and the real world. That's why I'm here today to discuss the shock and disappointment that I had when I learned about Superintendent Weaver's new partnership with PragerU. I spent a couple of hours watching PragerU videos that are listed as being aligned with state standards, and I found some very disturbing content. Things like a cartoon Christopher Columbus saying that it's better to be a slave than to be killed, a video that blames divorced mothers for parental alienation, to a video on why the 3/5 compromise was anti-slavery, just to name a few. I could keep going on with examples, but I have limited time. I have never seen so much content that claims to be educational that's riddled with bias, inaccuracies, and political propaganda. This content does not appear to be created by actual educators. It also doesn't appear that these materials were subjected to the same rigorous evaluation that other curriculum and supplemental educational materials offered in South Carolina are. It's also unclear to me who developed the documents that aligns these videos with our South Carolina state standards. PragerU materials are a hypocritical double standard. Let me be clear, propaganda of any sort, left or right, liberal or conservative, doesn't belong in our classrooms unless it's a history lesson on the dangers of propaganda. If we want students who have critical thinking skills, who excel academically and ultimately in the job market, we won't allow this partnership to continue. Additionally, I have concerns that these materials violate the South Carolina Budget Proviso 1.79, which addresses partisan curriculum. One of the videos listed as meeting a South Carolina state standard is called What's Holding the Arab World Back? In the video, the narrator says, quote, "The Arab world's problem is a problem of an Arab mindset, and the name of that problem is anti-Semitism. This entire video is about how Arabs as an entire group are prejudiced against Jewish folks, which is a direct violation of Budget Proviso 1.792 that says that an individual by virtue of his race is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. This partnership is likely going to cost school districts and the state money and costly litigation fees, money that could be better spent making sure that teachers and students have what they need to be successful. We cannot allow the future of our children in our state to be derailed by these political leanings. We need to keep the focus on what's best for students and how to better educate them. We need to be focused on improving the number of students who are reading and doing math on grade level and supporting the teachers that are educating the future of our great state. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and thank you for all that you do for students in South Carolina."
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. At this time, Catherine Fraley from South Carolina Library Association.
You got it, yep. Association of School
Association
Librarians.
School, I knew it. I was trying to get it.
There's a lot of acronyms. Good morning. Thank you for
morning.
having me and allowing me to speak. I appreciate it. My name is Catherine Freely, and I'm a school librarian, and I'm invested in ensuring that our students have access to a wide range of resources and materials that support their education and development. And as I've reviewed the proposed changes, especially ones that you're going to discuss today during the full board, related to Regulation 43-170, I have some concerns and some questions, particularly regarding enforcement and disciplinary procedures outlined. I have 3 critical questions that I believe require clarity before these rules can be fairly and effectively implemented. First, what exactly constitutes a violation under Regulation 43-170? As a librarian, I work hard to select materials that are developmentally appropriate and that reflect the diverse needs of my students. However, the language of this regulation is vague, and without clear definitions, how are we supposed to confidently make decisions about materials without fear of unintentionally violating the rules? What specific actions or omissions would be considered a violation? We need clear, detailed guidelines so that we can do our jobs without constantly second-guessing ourselves. Second, how will the state board determine whether a violation is knowing or intentional? The procedures say that for the second or subsequent violations, if the board determines that the violation was knowing or reckless, it may lead to hearings. This is deeply concerning to me and my colleagues. How will the board make this determination? Librarians like myself are already balancing numerous responsibilities. And mistakes can happen, but we deserve to know how the board will assess whether those mistakes are unintentional or simply errors made in good faith. Without this transparency, we risk being unfairly penalized for actions that were never intended to harm students or violate regulations. Third, what are the consequences of a hearing for second and subsequent violations? If the board deems a violation to be intentional, district superintendents or board chairpersons could be subject to a hearing. However, it's not clear what potential consequences could arise from this. Could it lead to disciplinary action, professional penalties, or even dismissal? We need to understand the full scope of these hearings and what's at stake for both educators and our school leaders. I urge the board to address these critical questions before moving forward with these procedures and in your discussions today. As educators, we want to follow the rules, but without clear guidelines and transparency, the policy risks creating a culture of fear and self-censorship that ultimately harm our students. I ask the board to provide clarity so that all educators, like myself, are supported and not punished for doing our best to serve students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Do you need me to repeat myself?
I guess you're going to have to come back up. Somebody didn't understand. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Steve Newsom, please.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Steve Newsom. I taught English in South Carolina for 16 years, and frankly, a large reason why I left the profession is some of the things that you're going to be discussing today. These the regulation that was passed this year has not helped. But I wanted to talk about the lack of clarity around even the purpose of those regulations as you think about how to give guidance to schools. The regulations promulgated by the board this year were presented by its authors as a way to promote transparency and age-appropriate materials. However, Superintendent Weaver's partnership with PragerU all but proves that this was not her true intent in commissioning and championing them. Many of the videos are age inappropriate and bear little or no relation to the standards they are supposed to address. In one video, Steven Crowder, who's a right-wing podcaster who has been accused of some inappropriate behavior, but we won't get into that, he yells about Columbus Day and wears a shirt emblazoned with 2 semi-automatic pistols bearing the slogan, "Try the Walther," and that's in a video that's rated, according to our document, for 3rd graders through 5th graders. And it also doesn't relate to any educational standard that it's supposed to address. According to the crosswalk document created by the department and PragerU, according to Superintendent Weaver, Crowder's rant about the outrageousness of Indigenous Peoples Day is supposed to be somehow linked to a state academic standard requiring students to be able to, quote, utilize a variety of primary and secondary sources to analyze multiple perspectives of innovation and industrialization on demographic change, reform, and American identity. Crowder suggests that schools have painted Columbus as, quote, the devil and America as evil, and says that in response, the children watching should want to, quote, commit grievous bodily self-harm. What he doesn't do by any stretch of the imagination is provide any kind of perspective on innovation and industrialization or about anything that is academically relevant to the standard cited in the document. In another video, a cartoon Frederick Douglass tells students that founding fathers who owned slaves or supported the continuation of the slave trade were just doing what they had to do, quote, to achieve something great. This video, according to the document, is supposed to help students, quote, compare the economic and political causes of the Civil War. Needless to say, yelling at students about self-harm is arguably not age-appropriate. And in the Frederick Douglass video, it also does not relate to the standard. The Civil War is never discussed in the video. Although cartoon Frederick Douglass does say a lot about the evils of, quote, radical politics and importance of only supporting activists who, quote, work inside the system, which is an ahistorical kind of representation of what Douglass would have said and did say in his life. In another video, Dennis Prager tells children, if there is no God, murder isn't wrong, and then delivers several minutes of questionable philosophical and theological argumentation to support that thesis. Again, these arguments are not only inappropriate for children, but they're not tied to the state standards that they're supposed to address or to any state standards. So if the goal was to combat some kind of perceived bias in the education system, and I think some people sincerely think that that's there, as someone who taught all over the state for 16 years, I can promise you that the schools, like the rest of our politics, tend to be more heavily dominated by Republicans than by woke leftists or whatever it is that we're scared of today. But even if that was truly the goal, putting in different indoctrination does not combat indoctrination, or replacing one bias with another does not replace it. So some of these videos probably represent perspectives that could be explored responsibly in schools. So I wouldn't be here today to call for the censorship of anything. For example, when I taught AP Lang, I would have been happy to watch some of these videos with students in order to analyze what the arguments are that they're making, but to present them as the department is doing as academic materials, like we've already heard, these don't seem to have been developed by academics. They've been heavily criticized by historians, by scientists, by teachers, and we've seen this controversy play out already in the other states like Florida that have already adopted these as kind of a political stunt. Meanwhile, teachers and librarians who I speak to every day continue to be really confused about the regulation. And I think that this partnership just adds to that confusion because, again, it kind of puts the lie to the idea that we were trying to make schools less biased by replacing what we had with something that's more clearly biased. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. All right. Thank y'all, all three, for coming and speaking today. Thank you very much. At this point, we'll move into our committee items that we have for approval. I think Teresa Penny is here to request for the approval of property disposal for Beaufort County.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
Teresa. How are y'all? Good morning. All right. I just have one today, nice and easy. This one is in Beaufort County. They're saying that it's unnecessary for educational and administrative purposes for their district facility plannings. DOT has also looked at this land, and they have said that, I quote, does not contain any internal roads or driveways identified on the state highway system. So Beaufort County believes it's in their best interest to get rid of this land, and it is on Cherokee Farm Roads and Still Shadow Road. Yeah.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
All right, and I think that was Board Member Kreminger. Made the motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Board Member Allison seconds. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed by like sign. The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and I think, based on this, do you have another? Just one? All right. For some unknown reason, I had you down twice.
It's the same one.
Okay. So that one's done, so you've done that one. So we really only have two items, or is there a third? I'm checking. There's three, but that may have been the earlier one. Okay, I'm good. You get on Catherine for that one. All right, thank you. We have now first reading for the proposed regulation of South Carolina Code 43243.2, educational interpreters for students who are deaf. Lisa McClement, if she would please come forward from the Office of Special Education, Division of College and Career Readiness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Not as tall as everybody else. This is the first reading, like you said, of Regulation 43243.2, which is the credentialing of sign language interpreters in response to the Code of Law 5933-120, which require the Board of Education to develop and promulgate regulations for the appropriate credentialing of sign language interpreters. And, you know, our regulation is tackling three things: a minimum requirements, professional requirements, minimum educational requirement, and continuing education. And we did work in consultation. The law required us to work in consultation with the South Carolina Association of the Deaf and the South Carolina Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, and they were our part of our stakeholder group. So,
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, yes.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
yes, ma'am.
Go ahead first.
Sometimes interpreters are used on a short-term basis, and I understand that there's an issue among the state and upstate that I know much about rates. Has that been discussed, that there could become a standard rate?
right now, there's not a standard rate, you know, and this is not a certified position, it's just a credentialing. So it's not, it's a little bit different, you know, it's providing like the minimum qualifications for the job, but right now, the districts vary from minimum wage to teachers, you know, pay scale.
That in itself is the issue, with some districts being able to procure
Right.
interpreters because the rates vary so much. But
Exactly.
there's been no discussion of trying to come up with at least a standard.
Not,
No?
you know, not through the credential, you know, looking at a credential process. Do we recommend to districts all the time, you know, when they say we're struggling, we can't get interpreters, but you know, our answer is the district beside you has them on a teacher salary scale.
Yeah.
They're going to drive next door.
Yeah.
You know, it's some common sense to that. But, you know, it's just district right now, up to the district.
It seems to be more of an issue when it is short-term, when you
Right.
need an interpreter for the afternoon for an IEP meeting, or something of
Right.
that nature, versus a person that's a full-time employee of the district.
Right.
That's
Correct.
where the rub seems to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is a good question, because it affects all of us with a lot of special program services. Anyone else have a question?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
may.
sir.
Did anyone from the department have any contact with the legislators who offered this bill that require certification now for interpreters?
We did not.
Okay.
You know, we get the code of law, we got the task to create the, you know, regulation, but no, we did not.
Yeah, this is potentially going to have some unforeseen consequences in many districts. There are many of the interpreters that are not certified nationally, and it is my opinion that the National Certification Organization is quite biased in their offering those certification to interpreters. And so interpreters of one political bent often
Right.
have difficulty getting certification versus interpreters
Right.
of a different political bent have no difficulty at all.
Right, and that's why we're not saying we're requiring national certification. We're
Yeah.
requiring a minimum standard through the educational interpreters performance assessment, you know, rates on a scale of 1 to 5. And so, you know, we're saying you would need to, you know, next year we're starting out with a minimum of 3.2. We're working up to that 4.0, that optimal where we'd love for every interpreter to be, giving them the opportunity to get the professional development, to build those skills. You could have national certification, or you have those minimum scores and those minimum requirements. So we're not requiring that national certification, you know, for reasons that you just, you know, mentioned.
Thank you.
I had to supervise interpreters, so I know a little bit about how this works. The school district does not have to only employ those folks that have this certification.
No, absolutely not.
It might.
No. And we're not asking them to
Yeah.
do that.
Good questions. Any other questions?
For the minimum, yes, for the 24, what's next school year? 24, 25 school year? 25, 20, will be 25, 26. You know, yes. Well, you know, and right now, approximately, we have about 98 interpreters in South Carolina. You know, and to be honest, this has been the biggest struggle to write a regulation I've ever gone through, because we all watched a video of what an interpreter with a 3.0, you know, looks like. As they're interpreting, we're watching the captioning underneath. And a 3.2 is interpreting about 64% of what a person is saying. And that's, you know, not the idea, you know, we would love an interpreter to be interpreting, you know, at 100%. But if we went to a higher standard to start, we would lose 46% of our interpreters that are under a 3.5, you know, or 3.2. 3.2, we could lose about 20 interpreters. So we've looked at that as well. And we've kind of, putting plan into place to look at, there are contracted interpreters that are, Peter, you've seen some contracted interpreters and do an amazing job. I think, what we also have offered is, we help support through our Office of Special Education Services, the Educational Interpreter Center at Clemson University, and they provide professional development yearly for our interpreters. They also offer the EPA performance exam. They've sent emails to all the interpreters in the state that register with them to let them know that the October 15th exam, would get their scores scored by the beginning of next school year if they needed that. What we've gathered from some interpreters that are under that 3.2, they just haven't taken that exam in years. But they've been interpreting for years and going to professional development. So we feel we'll pick up some higher scores when they now have a little more need to go take that exam again. It's American Sign Language. Right, correct.
Do we have, and I'm just asking,
Sure.
since you said there were approximately 98 people that could do this, is there a geographical distribution of where they might be? Because I'm just trying to think in my district, and I'm not sure I have that. I'm just not sure.
Right. I do have a breakdown by district, but it was varied by a lot of smaller rural districts. Maybe only had no deaf students, have no interpreters.
Right.
At that time. So it varies by district depending, and it could vary by years of depending on how many students at that moment they have that are
Sure.
deaf. So.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
I was just curious about this. I wanted to learn sign language, and I wanted to get certified. And I put in reasonable effort to do that. How long would it take me to get certified?
Right now, there is a national certification, but we're not requiring a certification. We're requiring a score on an educational interpreter performance exam. Yeah, Sarah, would you, how long would it take someone to, are you talking about going from not knowing sign language to?
How do you want to, whatever period of time, what is a reasonable period of time to expect the people that aren't certified to get certified?
I think that's two different questions.
Right.
If you're talking about going from not knowing sign language to getting certified, the fastest I've seen that done is about a year and a half.
I guess this might help you a little bit. To get certified, you have to sit for, a performance assessment. And during that performance assessment, you are videotaped interpreting in a real life type situation. And that video goes to Boys Town, who will score that for a score that would meet the national certification requirements. And it is taking Boys Town about 8 to 9 months to score those. So it would be, I would say, a year on average.
Would it be fair then to say that we're going to accept the experience people we have right now and keep them in their position, and they have 1 year to get certified? And 1 year from now, everybody has to be certified in order to teach sign language.
And, as it was mentioned earlier, it's not easy to get that national certification. There's only Texas that offers the national certifications through one of their programs, but there's not a real strong national certification for interpreters of the deaf. Most states require an EPA score. You know, it's more not about the national certification, but more about, you know, what is your ability to interpret based on a 1 to 5 EPA score? You know, looking at what, you know, a 3.2 on average interprets about 64% of what is being read. A 3.5 would be interpreting about 80% of what somebody has signed. A 4.0 is getting more to being able to interpret closer to 90 to 100% of what is you know, being spoken. So we're looking more at the EPA score rather than the national certification, if that makes sense.
I guess the point is, you want people to be continuously improving themselves.
Well, part of the regulation is requiring 60 hours of continuous education every 4 years. We offer that through the South Carolina Association of the South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind Outreach Center offers professional development, and Clemson University's Educational Interpreter Center also offers professional development yearly and several times throughout the year.
And as I understand it, this is for first reading, correct?
Right, this is for first reading.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, please.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but do I understand that over the years, because we have not had a certain level of
Right.
interpreters, parents have been very concerned over the years that maybe, as you have pointed out, the level interpreted of a child and
Right.
that kind of thing has not been the level that parents and all have felt like it should be.
Correct.
Which has been brought to the legislature many times. This has been an ongoing situation.
This is probably the 4th time this has been, you know, a law has gone to the legislation but not passed. This is the 4th, and this is the one that passed this time.
And so therefore, they're trying to get some kind of level
Right,
of
right,
education and all to make sure that all children
correct. And I think the ideal that we would love, and I think of this, you know, I think everything we do through our Office of Special Education Services is, you know, I'm a parent, I have a nephew with Down syndrome. You know, we always try to put ourselves in our parents' shoes. You know, we can't lose 50% of the interpreters in our state. That would devastate, you know, our deaf students. But we also want a standard of 4.0. That's our goal by the end of, you know, is starting out where we know we won't lose a significant amount of interpreters, but getting to that 4-point standard. And I think, you know, that's our goal. That's, you know, if I was a parent of a deaf child, I want my interpreter to be as close to that 4.0, that kind of golden standard, as we can get them to. But the reality is this is where we are, and 50% of our interpreters are under that 4.0.
And I understand also that, like the School for the Deaf and Blind, which have been providing interpreters
Right.
for many, many years, is in agreement with this.
Absolutely.
As well as the School of Interpretation at Clemson University
Yes.
and that kind of thing. To get all of our interpreters on the same level so that our children who are deaf
Right.
get what they should be getting.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, I think we have a good summation, because it is something that has been in the works, even in the General Assembly,
Right.
for some time. And this is the first time that we've got something, and therefore we're going to start at some level with the expectation of getting to another level.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve? All right, Dr. Johnston approves. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Board Member Kriminger seconds. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. The motion carries. Where'd she go? Oh, look, all of a sudden she was gone. I was like, I hope we weren't that bad. Lord, Ooh, get a drink of water. All right, for item number 3, this is the proposed rule of governance with the Uniform Instructional Materials Board governance policy pursuant to Regulation 43-170, which we heard from in the public comment earlier. Robert Cathcart, policy advisor. Before you do anything,
Got socks on today. No,
Okay.
no Dr. O'Shield socks, but
I'm just
I'm wearing
wondering.
socks.
I'm just wondering, because you got me on some socks, and that's amazing.
Yes, sir. I regret I'm not wearing them today.
No, I'm proud for you.
Glad to be in front of y'all this morning. Did want to just say something clarifying real quick on something that was addressed in public comment, that also kind of has been an issue that the department has been working to address. On educator discipline issues in particular, the department issued a memo last week kind of addressing some of those concerns. I believe it was sent out to the board, but if anyone's looking for it, it's on the library regulation page on our website, and it's cited as the 10.2 memo on educator discipline. So just kind of wanted to put that out there. We're not addressing the reg necessarily as a whole as a policy today, but this is just kind of the board governance piece that will allow the board to establish clear and uniform procedures that would then allow this board to hear those appeals. So that's both uniform and transparent. This communicates to parents, district, and the public what the process is, and then they can sign up to speak and kind of how they can do that, as well as to whom the appeals need to be directed. This also creates the committee, the Instructional Materials Review Committee, not to be confused with the Instructional Materials Committee that will be discussed later in SLA today. So I do apologize for some of the terminology confusion, but this is a separate committee that will be set up by the board specifically to hear these appeals. And what the governance does, it creates kind of these pre-hearing procedures that follow the South Carolina Administrative Procedures Act. It gives one unified point of contact to whom a person who's trying to appeal the complaint can send them to, and then it also allows anyone who wants to sign up for a comment either for or against the appeal to once again communicate to that same person. So it's an easy communication, and then will kind of be sent out to board members. And then also governs hearing conduct, so how testimony is given, how long testimony is given, and kind of lays out some of those guidelines for the board. And then finally, the way in which the committee reports, and then the board makes the final decision. So in this case, the committee would issue a report and recommendation to the board to be included in that packet. The full board then can either take that up and agree or disagree. It also allows the board, if they wanted to have a hearing of the full board as opposed to the committee, to take this up as a full board. So it gives the board a good bit of flexibility in the governance, but also kind of sets those clear established standards for how these processes go, both for the public, the complaint or the appellant, and then also for the board to kind of understand that. And kind of in conclusion, once again, this is the standard path. The board may, in its discretion, waive any requirements by a 2/3 majority. And if there are any questions that come up, obviously we're here to work with y'all to amend anything that might need to be amended in the board governance. Do y'all have any questions?
Good lead segue. Are there any questions? All right, yes.
Be jumping too far ahead.
Go ahead.
But the committee is formed. Once the committee is formed, do they have the opportunity to send that straight to the full board?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they can either make a decision and or send it to the full board for a decision.
That's correct. Yes,
If
ma'am.
they make a decision, then
And-
the full board passes off on that eventually.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll clarify too. So they don't make a final decision. They would make a report and recommendation,
Okay.
but that's really all they can do. The full board has to ratify it, and then when that decision is communicated to the districts, it will be the full board's kind of decision that's communicated, not the committee's. But the committee, similar to the way we do educator licensure cases,
Right.
it kind of allows that for a smaller hearing. For those who are kind of focusing on this issue, and then for them to do a lot of that legwork and then bring it to the full board. But if at any point the full board wishes to hear either a specific instance or all of them, the full board has that power in their discretion.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions? One that I just had, and maybe it's
Absolutely.
just my thinking, clarification more than anything.
Yes, sir.
Would it be prior decisions of the district board can be appealed, or is it limited to matters going forward after the approval of the rule of governance? So is it sort of a priori, or where are we?
Yes, sir. So it could be prior decisions, but it has to be prior decisions that have been passed since the regulation has gone into effect. Okay. And so this is kind of, the reason we're kind of doing this now too is to ensure that there's just, if there were any complaints, for instance, that were filed on August 1st, I don't know if there were or not, but if there were any, we're getting closer to that kind of into the 90-day period, into the time that the board might start getting some appeals. And so this just kind of gives you all the ability to hear those and have a uniform process.
Okay, I just wasn't, I was trying to rationalize that, and I just wasn't sure.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
All right, thank you, Board Member Kriminger. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Board Member Allison. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. As I see here, there are no information items. Therefore, as we go forward with consent agenda, is there a motion to place the approved action items above on the consent agenda?
I so move.
And I wanted to make, who was that? I just.
Allison.
All right, thank you so very much. I just couldn't hear it, sorry. And is there a second? Second? Johnson? Seconded the motion. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by like sign. The motion carries. Would there be any other business? Hearing none. Make a motion that we adjourn.